morning. So we've lost everybody to coffee, I think. But I want to start, if Jeff can hear me, that yes, girls do rule. Woohoo! For all the girl sellers in the audience. And then second, not only people in New York can sell. Those are the two things I want to say at the end of Jeff's presentation, because I'm from Hawaii and I think I can sell. So that's all we need, right? You have to believe in that fact. So I'm going to spend just a couple minutes going through some high-level thinking. I've been here for about a year now, traveling around the globe, talking to our customers and sort of hearing what's top of mind for them around what they are looking to do as it relates to sales transformation. How can they be better? How can they be better organizations, become high-performing, and more importantly, make sure that the sellers in the organization, the individual contributors, are actually taking advantage of all the things that they have in the market. So for me, I like to start with the basics. I think that in the future, customer-driven organizations will completely reset the value equation, which also I totally agree with what the two earlier speakers were talking about. It is all about the value and the meaningful engagement that you have with customers. You know, I like to say that as salespeople, we have one thing every day we can control. And I know that that sounds like too few, but there really is only one thing we can control, and that is our behavior in front of customers. What we say, what we do, how we act, and how prepared we are. So those value equations you have has everything to do with that meaningful engagement. Thinking about how do you reset that means you have to start thinking differently about the things that you use in order to do it. So speed, disruption, we just heard a lot about it. But I'll tell you, when I talk about speed, I actually talk about it in the eyes of the customer. How do we ensure that we get to where our customers are going before they get there so we can welcome them? It's about making sure when they want something from us, we already knew that they wanted it. We started talking to them about it before they even realized it was something they needed for their business. That's what I mean by speed. We have to be careful, though, as salespeople, how far out we put that flag. We can't put it out 3 to 5 years when you're trying to sell them something either this quarter, this year, or in the next 18 months. So make sure you set those boundaries about what you're talking about for your customers in context with what you think they, as an organization, can absorb as it relates to change. Many of us today actually don't sell products or services. We sell the act of a business changing the way they do things, and change is hard. Now, when you think about speed, you have to then think about the only way we can get there in advance of our customers getting there and anticipating it is by the use of technology. You know, I'd like to say that in all that has happened, I remember using a single version of ACT when I started selling with WordPerfect. Yes, I'm only 25. But ultimately, I used to hit my numbers using a Rolodex and a notepad and a Post-it note and whatever else I could find. Today, I say, boy, it would be amazing to go and sell again for a quarter and see what I could do with all the tools we now have at our disposal. But I remind myself that, you know, I'm just not that tough anymore to go out there and sell like you guys do every day. But I would say, ultimately, using the technology, we have to get past the fatigue we may see or we may feel in all the things we've used over the years. The technologist, who is also a seller, is going to be the most competitive thing you're going to face going forward. A smarter seller is the one that is going to beat you. It may not necessarily be a better product. The third thing that I see is that customer experience is absolutely this new battleground. And the brand and your brand is the sum of all of the touch points. All of the touch points that you have in any given day with a customer, whether it's online, whether it's offline, on the phone, via LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever it might be. Remember, you have your personal brand, but you also have your company's brand. These three things in combination, speed in which you're able to get to your customers, using the intelligence and all the tools now at your disposal, they're endless. Take advantage of them. And the third thing is always remember that the one thing you can control is yourself and your behavior and that experience you can give your customers. So with that, I'm going to introduce my esteemed panel to come up, and we're going to have a quick dialogue for 15 or 20 minutes. And we've got 2 mics here, so I can't actually see the mics, so if you have a question, just tap on the mic, I'll hear it, or I'll see you. And then we will answer anything that you may have. So with that, I'm going to introduce my panel. First up, I think oh, hi guys. First up, we've got Sam Lee. Let's welcome Sam. And we've got Kay Kotowski. Sorry. I thought you were coming. Nice to see you.
Good to see
All
you.
right. Well, thank you guys for making a little time for us. And I think we've got a fantastic audience of sellers here. So we're going to make this as painless as possible, maybe. I don't know. We might have a little fun with it. But why don't you spend a moment, Kate, and just sort of tell the audience what you do and
Sure.
sort of what your day-to-day role is in the sales world.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tiffany.
Sure.
So my name is Kay Kotowski. I'm currently the vice president of our commercial digital thread at GE. So I've been with GE for 20 years next month. Feels like a long time. And essentially what I'm responsible for is our sales function globally. So we've got 25,000 sellers across 180 countries. And what I'm responsible for is really the digital transformation of the Salesforce. So how do we make our Salesforce more contemporary, more modern? And when you think about GE, like where we're really focused today is we really believe that the next big thing is really this idea of the fourth industrial revolution. So the industrial internet. So the internet connected 1 billion people. The industrial internet is going to connect 50 billion people, machines, and data. And so what we believe is that if we're going to have credibility transforming other businesses with some of our software and connected devices and helping them drive transformation, we have to transform ourselves. And so I own doing that for the Salesforce at GE.
So let's put this in perspective, though. How many salespeople?
Yeah, so 25,000.
25,000 salespeople. So I'm going to get into that a little bit, right? So you worry about scaling a team of 3 or 5 people. Imagine 25,000 all trying to move in the same direction, right? Difficult.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, Sam, so why don't you give a little context of sort of how you joined us today?
Thanks, Tiffany. So first, thank you to everyone in the audience for bringing such great energy. It really is something we appreciate on the stage. My name is Sam Lee, and I'm Global Head of Sales Strategy and Operations at WeWork. For those of you who aren't familiar with WeWork, our mission is simple but profound. We believe in a world where people can work to make a life, not just a living. At WeWork, our customers range from large companies like Salesforce and GE to small and medium companies. And through our platform, we provide them 3 things. First is beautiful workspace. Second is entrepreneurial community. And third is services, front, middle, and back office solutions that allow them to focus on what matters most, namely building their businesses and delivering on their respective missions. At WeWork, my role is threefold. First, I'm leading our global go-to-market strategy. Second, I'm building our sales machine. And third, I'm leading recruitment of our first professional sales team. It's not quite 25,000, but we're getting there. So if you're a high-performing salesperson and interested in joining a mission-driven company, please speak to me after today's program.
Oh, look at that, a recruitment plug.
Already making the plug, yeah.
Smart.
Nice,
Very
smart. Well, so Sam, I'm gonna double click on that a little bit because you didn't sort of get to the sales side of the traditional path.
Yeah.
Right? You're sort of a strategist and a financial guy. So,
Yeah.
so I'd love to hear your perspective of what you think about this crazy profession called sales.
Yeah.
Now that you've come into the mix of it.
Sure. So it's a great question, Tiffany. As Tiffany mentioned, I've had a pretty circuitous career myself. I'm only 33, so I'm a millennial. And I've had the opportunity to work across a couple of industries. I started off in Goldman Sachs, worked at AOL and other internet brands, and now I've found myself at WeWork, as I said, leading global sales strategy and operations. What's excited me about WeWork as a company and what I think is so exciting about the future of sales is that increasingly it is that future salesperson is a millennial. At WeWork, our average employee is just 28 years old, and I think that piqued Tiffany's interest when I mentioned it to her last week.
Because I wanted to apply.
But I think,
I hear
yes,
you, Chad. I hear you over there. No laughing.
So yes, our average employee is a millennial, but more importantly, she's what we're calling part of the we generation. And for us, the we generation is characterized, and people that are part of it are really mission-driven, they're passionate, and they want to work on projects about which they're passionate, and they want to work alongside people who are equally focused on bringing those passions to life. And that's something that I've seen now at Goldman Sachs, believe it or not, at AOL, at WeWork, and it's really critical to our sales culture. So it's been an easy transition through those three.
So what's interesting is, Kate, I'm going to ask you, because with 25,000 sellers, I'm guessing there's not a high millennial population at GE.
Actually, probably about a third are millennials, yeah.
So let's talk about the 2/3,
Yeah.
and then let's talk about the third, right?
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling about categorizing millennials as just the only ones that are purpose-driven, or very digitally savvy, or sort of socially are conscious. And I think that all generations can be. And as a digital native or a digital immigrant myself, I got technology at about 20. I behave like a millennial still in many ways, but so I worry about that categorization. But if you think about your environment where there's other sales leaders in the room that may have this mix of millennials entering a more established sales force that is sort of set in their ways and have always done it a certain way, talking about that disruption, how do you introduce millennials into a culture that is a little more ingrained in the way they've always done it? I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, so we're actually going through this right now. So one of the things that I've learned is, I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek. I was just at a leadership retreat with him last weekend. And I think some of the things that he talks about really speak to me, right? Like this whole idea of customers don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think this whole idea of having what's the why around digital sales transformation is something that we're thinking about. And actually in 2 weeks we're going to be getting a cross section of millennials, Gen Xers, baby boomers, but from all of our different businesses, and we're going to come up with what's the why around digital sales transformation, right? Because very often I was talking about it as growth. It's about growth, it's about speed, it's about productivity. But that doesn't necessarily make you want to jump out of bed in the morning, right? So we're actually going through that process right now, and I think once we uncover that, I think that's going to really provide a lot of extra energy around why they should work differently and embrace some of these digital tools.
Yeah, and Simon Sinek was here last year, actually. For those of you who didn't make it last year, it's a great video online from Simon at Sales Machine last year, which you should definitely check out, because I think that he frames it up very nicely, right, talking about all those things.
Yeah.
And when you think about that generational difference, Sam, I'm going to ask you, what kinds of tools are you putting in the hands of your sales reps in order to empower them to be engaging with their customers? So what are the, and I don't mean brand wise, I'm not looking for, just is it social, is it things that they're doing in preparation, what is it that you're giving them as they leave the day and go and try to attack getting new customers?
Sure. So increasingly, I think what's most important about technology and what is ultimately the enabler of that technology is the intelligence that underpins that. So we've got phenomenal CRM. We are working with Salesforce, and you're a key partner of ours. But what threads, what threads the needle and bring those technologies together is the fact that WeWork is really invested in not just intelligence, but in artificial intelligence to help our salespeople to do their jobs more efficiently and effectively. And you can see that, really helping us move the ball forward both on sales and customer success. So give an example of that, because I know that it's sort of an overload of this, AI and artificial intelligence and all of the, and I just said it. And I think salespeople are still a little leery, especially when many come out and say AI or artificial intelligence is actually going to replace a seller, which I don't agree with, in case anybody was wondering. But I think it can augment it. So how are you using AI and analytics to actually make them smarter? Sure. So on the sales side of the house, we're using AI in two key areas. First is in lead scoring, and the second is in opportunity management. So whether you're an SDR or whether you're a frontline sales rep at WeWork, increasingly through machine learning and inside of their CRM, our Salesforce CRM, you're getting prioritization of which prospects, which opportunities to focus on at a given time. And we're making recommendations about which activities are going to help you to get to yes fastest, right? So it's through that machine learning, through culling through all the interactions our sales reps are having in the CRM, plus outside data we pull in, unstructured data that's informing that. And then on the customer success side of the house, I already mentioned that one of our most valuable assets at WeWork is actually this global community. And every single month, 70% of our 120,000 members are connecting, collaborating, and transacting with one another. Much of that is organic. They're meeting in a common space, at an event, but we also supplement that with one-to-one introductions that our community managers make using AI. So again, culling through all that data, we're able to identify which members are in need of something, and then we're able to identify which member, whether they sit next door at our HQ or in Shanghai, is able to provide that service or fill that need.
Great, and I think that goes back to what I was saying around getting to where your customers are before they realize you're looking for those relationships.
Yeah, I think we've been testing AI as well, and I think one of the things that we've been really excited about is that for a sales manager, a lot of their time is spent getting the play-by-play from their sales reps, or sometimes you might have a sales rep that works for you. Some are more positive, some are more negative, so you're trying to figure out, well, what's the truth? Is this deal going to close next quarter at the end of the year? And so what we've seen with AI, with the AI that we've been testing, is that by pulling in Outlook data, email data, scraping the web, the CRM data, what you can get is really a probability to win. And what's been exciting for us is to kind of measure and see, the deal that it says we've got a 10% probability. Well, how do we drive that up, and what are the factors that drove that up? We just had a recent example with our GE Water business, and we were able to see, we were dueling with a competitor and trying to win, trying to re-up the business. And what we saw was that we had a 25% chance of winning. And so we brought in the senior leader from the business, the CEO of Water, and that moved it from like 25 to 45. And then we brought in Jeff, and that moved it from like 45 to 75. And so it was interesting to see, what are these variables or tactics that you're using, and then how does it, how do you move the needle? So.
Well, it must be interesting for you as well, because I'd say I don't think there's any other company potentially in this room that can say that they've watched the customers change for 150 years. So.
125.
125.
Yep. No.
A long time.
Yeah, a long time.
Right? A long time.
A long time, yeah.
So a couple of generations of salespeople at least, right?
Yeah.
And so talk to me, or the audience, a little bit about sort of as the customers are changing, what are they changing from? Because I'm guessing, especially with industrial internet, right, it's a very specific buyer. I mean, turbines and water, and those are big things, right? It's not, I'm selling to, some street small business, right?
Yep.
So how are your customers changing, considering they're very big, large enterprises?
Yeah, I think there's no question. I think probably everyone in the room realizes we're living in the age of the customer. The customers are much more informed. There's many more buyers than there were in the past. And so, what we see is the importance of, you've got to earn that place at the table in terms of being a trusted advisor. And the way that we can empower our teams to do that is really by giving them really great content. In my job now, this is a really interesting job because I'm now a customer of technology, right? We're going to invest, we're going to create a sales technology stack for our 25,000 sellers because our leadership fundamentally believes that this is hurting us because we don't have a good technology stack for sales. And so now that I've become a customer, I think about the companies that I'm partnering with, and the companies that I'm partnering with are the ones that understand that I'm going to put my name on a technology, right? So I'm basically endorsing it to our CEO and all of our chief commercial officers, and so we've got to have a trusting relationship. When people send me really great articles that are very insightful and that help me become a thought leader in my company and externally, that creates value. And so I think we're seeing the same thing with with our customers, and then even my own experience. It's really kind of reminding me of how important that is, right? And how we have to deliver that to our sellers. So I think the more that we can do to kind of proactively deliver insights to our sales teams, as opposed to them going out and searching for them, is going to be really important. And that's one thing that we're focused on delivering this year.
So with a customer that's changing so quickly and really has these sort of consumer expectations, right? So our business buyers have consumer expectations. So those of you selling sort of B2C, the challenge now is that, or B2B, I should say, is that it feels a lot like B2C.
Yeah.
And so what are you doing to help sales make that transition? Because I think there's no better example of how do you scale change amongst salespeople, especially 2/3 of which have been doing it a very long time, and a third, as you said, are millennials. Yeah. So how are you scaling, getting out content, new tools, and sort of behavior changes and coaching, et cetera?
Yeah, so what we're doing, so the formula that works at GE is if we prove it out at one business, what we've seen over and over is that everyone adopts it like wildfire. And I think it was very similar to the comment that was made here, whereas, we've got a commercial council, we meet every 90 days. And so it shouldn't be me presenting how great something is. It should be the head of whatever business units, telling his or her peers how great it is. And so, what we've learned is we're trying to really think, act, and work like a startup. So how can we test? How can we learn? How can we fail? And then how can we fail quickly? How can we fail cheaply? And then how do we iterate and just make things better? And so that's, we call it FastWorks. It's based off the Lean Startup. We partnered with 2 authors, David Kidder and Eric Ries. And that's really kind of our formula for how we're rolling out big changes, is really this whole idea of test and learn and failing.
And so very different for you, Sam, right? You've got sort of starting from the ground up. You're able to build the sales culture in sort of the view that you want to have it in. And so are you finding that even in the last 12 months, you've had to make some changes?
Absolutely. So again, we're 7 years in the making, so quite a bit younger as a company, and obviously earlier in our growth stages. But when you look at that 7-year history, founded in 2010, we ended that first year with just under 1,000 members, 2 New York City buildings. Fast forward 7 years, we're now at 120,000 members in 15 countries, 42 cities. And in that time, our customers evolved. We started out primarily serving what we're calling our consumer segment, so freelancers, early stage startups, SMEs, and have since graduated to a much more diverse member base to include very large enterprises like the 2 on the stage. And with that transition, we've needed to revisit our sales process, revisit our sales systems, upgrade our sales systems, and rethink the type of salespeople that we're hiring, because we need to have on board consultative sellers, people that can be strategic business partners to help a GE, a Salesforce, or any number of large companies to get more flexibility in their real estate portfolios, achieve long-term cost savings and efficiency, and different business imperatives around employee experience, productivity, that WeWork's helping people to deliver.
Excellent. Well, we've only got about a minute left, so I'm going to leave you guys with giving the audience sort of the one thing. Right, so what would be one thing? If they're going to write down one thing that they're going to get from you today that they can go back and say, here's the 3 or 4 things I took from this event today. Here's your shot to make one of these. One of the things they take away. So like a little clock, we're going to go dee, dee, dee. Okay, ready,
Sure.
go.
Sure. So, I've heard bits and pieces of this in Fritz's presentation prior, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about it later today. But even though our customer base has evolved over the last couple of years, what has remained consistent are just 2 holy grails of customer engagement. And those are authenticity and relevance. So first and foremost, you'll be successful in sales and member success in growing your business if you are authentic to your mission. And that means being personal and purposeful with every single engagement. And second, as it relates to relevant, make sure to be relevant to your consumer. You're going to have a wide variety of consumers, but make sure you meet her where she is. And importantly, that you come with that value prop that resonates most from all of your data, from all of your interactions. There's so many different channels, there's so many different formats, but if you stay close to those 2 principles, you'll undoubtedly connect with your customers and grow with them over time.
Great. Kate?
That's great. I think probably one of my biggest learnings in my role is, when I started 8 months ago, I was working in Europe, and I was really someone who wasn't active in social media at all. I mean, I'll be honest, I worked for a CEO who did nothing but tweet all the time, and I was like doing all of his work, and so I really thought that social media was something that people that had a lot of time did. And that was actually wrong. That was the wrong way to approach it. When Beth Comstock called me to ask me to do this job, one of the first things, my friends and my team said to me is, Kate, you really need to get out there on social media and you really need to be active and have a voice. And I didn't really understand how important it was. And then I started doing it. And what I learned was that it is really important for the time and the space that we live in, that if you're not active, if you're not out there, you need to have a voice, you need to be authentic, you need to be relevant. And I think, Jeffrey talked about it, right? Don't underestimate how your customers are Googling you. When I meet with suppliers, I'm Googling them, right? And when people, meet with me, I know they're Googling me. And so I think it's just really important. I think what I've learned in my journey with social media is that it's a great way to actually become more productive, because people start to come to you once they understand, what you're about, what your purpose is, what your why is, and what you believe. And so I think it actually helps. So I think you just can't take it for granted how important that is in this day and age, to show up.
Excellent. Well, let's give a great hand for our panel. And thank you, guys. And we're going to bring, I think Sarah's coming back up. Thank you.